What's up, everyone? My name is Joshua. I'm one of the worship leaders here at Central, as well as the producer of our weekend experience. Our online experience is awesome, but it's even better in person. If you live in Arizona, Nevada, Florida, Mexico, or Australia, we would love for you to join us at one of our physical locations. You can go to centralonline.tv for those times and locations. I want to tell you about something awesome happening this fall. September 8th at 7 p.m., Central Live is having our brand new live album recording. Go to central.live for tickets, as well as checking out our brand new online store for some of our merch and swag. But for now, let's check out Central Online.
What's up, Central? We're so glad you guys chose to start your week here. Let's all stand and sing together. Come on. I live out on a wire, hand in the fire for so long, but you show me better, new kind of love. It's ever the one I want. I'm lifting you higher, higher. There's nothing that I'd rather do but sweet elevation of praises. There's no one I love more than you. Come on, I never knew a love like this before. The kind of life that I could not find on my own. I've seen the world, but I have never been so sure that I want your heart. God, I just wanna be where you are, where you are. I just wanna be where your love, like nothing I've seen. My wildest of dreams don't come close. I've never known better than living like this. I cannot resist you, Lord. I'm lifting you higher, higher. There's nothing that I'd rather do than sweet elevation of praises. There's no one I love more than you. I never knew a love like this before. The kind of life that I could not find on my own. I've seen the world, but I have never been so sure that I want your heart. God, I just wanna be where you are. Let's get those hands up, come on. Where you are. I just wanna be where you are. Where you are. I just wanna be where
Got
you
that special kind of love, that kind that never gives up. You sing the sweetest melody, that calm the storm and break seas. Get with darkness, trust me. You shine that light that strips me. In this cold, cold world, it's your love that lets me know. You got that special kind of love, that kind that never gives up. You sing the sweetest melody, that calm the storm and break seas. Get with darkness, trust me. You shine that light that strips me. In this cold, cold world, it's your love that lets you know.
And after all this time, with you by my side, can't imagine what it'd be like on my own. It's half made up my heart, this love is all I got. You're the only one I know worth living for. The sweet elevation of praises. There's no one I love more than you. I never knew a love like this before. The kind of life that I could not find on my own. I've seen the world, but I've never been so sure that I want your heart. God, I just wanna be where you are. Where you are. I just wanna be where you are. Where you are. God, I just wanna be where you are. Well, church, we are all about life change here. Please remain standing as we celebrate a baptism and help me welcome Central Summerlin.
Hello, Central family. My name's Ben. I'm an intern here at Central Summerlin, and I'm honored to be here with Monty, who's making a spiritual decision today. So, Monty, have you made Jesus the leader and forgiver of your life? That's awesome. Well, based on your confession of faith, it's my honor to baptize you today in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. You are buried with Christ and risen to walk a new life.
Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Drew Bodine and I serve as one of the pastors here. If this is your first time at Central, I want you to know that this is a place where it's okay to not be okay. That means that you can come as you are, you belong, and we are so glad that you're here. Our experience is about an hour long, and right after I want to encourage you to go to centralonline.tv/welcome. There's a short form that you can fill out, and when you do, we're going to send you a gift in the mail this week. Today we're continuing in our series Staycation. Let's continue in our experience together.
Waiting for the time to pass you by. Hope the winds will change your mind. I could give 1,000 reasons why, and I know you, and you've got to make it on your own, but we don't have to grow up, we can stay forever young. Living on my sofa, drinking Coca-Cola underneath the rising sun. I could give 1,000 reasons why, but you're going, and you know that all you have to do is stay a minute. Just take your time, the clock is ticking, so stay. All you have to do is wait a second. Your hands on mine, the clock is ticking, so stay. All you have to do is all you have to do is stay. Won't admit what I already know. I've never been the best at letting go. I don't wanna spend this life alone. I guess I need you, and I need to. Yeah, make it on my own, but I don't wanna grow up. We can stay forever young. Living on my sofa, drinking Coca-Cola underneath the rising sun. I could give 1,000,000 reasons why, but you're going, and you know that all you have to do is stay a minute. Just take your time, the clock is ticking, so stay. All you have to do is wait a second. Your hands on mine, the clock is ticking, so stay. All you have to do is all you have to do is stay. All you have to do is stay. So stay. So stay. So stay. All you have to do is stay a minute. Just take your time. The clock is ticking, so stay. All you have to do is wait a second. Your hands on mine. The clock is ticking, so stay. All you have to do is stay.
I can remember it clearly. It was a Thursday mid-morning. I was flat out in the store. I was serving a customer. The phone rang. They transferred it down to me and said, "Your doctor's on, you need to speak to the doctor on the phone." I said, "No, I'm too busy with a client." She said, "No, you need to take this call." So I quickly tried to dismiss the doctor. I said, "Yes, what can I do for you?" And he said, "Well, time to talk?" I said, "No, I'm with somebody." And he said, "No, you need to hear this. I've got your test result, blood test, and it appears that you have leukemia." And that sort of just stopped me dead in the tracks. Being told that you had leukemia had a significant effect on my whole family. To digest that and to unpack that affected us all. Well, problems arose in the family, and I sought some physical help with that through my doctor and through marriage guidance counsellors. And we unpacked that for a period of maybe 6 months, which preceded and postceded the treatment of chemotherapy. But unfortunately, it wasn't solvable. So we had a separation and then a significant, difficult divorce. I lost everything. I was stripped down, stripped of everything that was normal to me. My home, just my surroundings, everything that I thought was normal. And I found myself where nowhere else to go. I found myself putting my head down on my boat. There was times that it was calm and serene and beautiful, and then there were times where it was freezing cold, raining and wind. I used to get thrown out of the boat of a night out of my bed. I'd get tossed out of the bed. I'd then have to try and collect my bits and pieces and a pillow and then go and sleep in the back of the car. It was just sort of like it was a black part of my life, and I just wanted to be black there too. I just didn't want to have to tell my story again and again. There was all nice people wanting to help me, but I just refused that help because I really was lost. I just didn't know where I was heading, where I was going, and what was in store. You know, I was at work one day and the mail came, and in that mail was an invite from some acquaintances of mine from my previous life who would attend church at Central. And it was the Easter service, and inside this mail was an Easter invitation. And I thought, wow, I may as well go. And of course that was one of the greatest decisions I've ever made. Coming to Central just strengthened my relationship with God. I could describe it as I had a flicker and a flame, and someone poured some petrol on it, and it just went. If someone was going to tell me at this point in my life that I was ever going to have another partner, a long-term partner, I would have thought they'd have had rocks in their head. Well, having Karen in my life has just given me a whole new purpose to live again. It is as simple as that. I didn't realise, when you're stripped down to nothing, that becomes fairly quickly what you accept for the rest of part of your life. But that's not necessary. It doesn't have to be like that.
When I met David, he was a churchgoer. He had a faith. That was kind of his thing. I had never been to church. He did ask me to come along a few times. I thought about it and I let him go. Until then, suddenly one day I did decide I was going to go. It was different because I had never experienced it before. Until then I had gone again and realised actually what was being said at church was influencing my life. I would go to church and find that I'd be fighting back tears each Sunday because the message was important to what was happening in my life at the time.
When Karen started coming to church with me, I never mentioned baptism to Karen at all. God put it on her heart, and when one morning she just said to us, I think I'd like to be baptised, I just knew it then was the right time for me. What's happened is God's put in front of me a whole new life. It's just restarted my life from what was entangled and dark and nowhere to go to just, I live the most wonderful, simple life.
All right. Well, we're grateful for David and his story and our Central Newcastle family that are doing great things down in Australia. Love seeing God move and work in people's lives, and grateful that you're all here today. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're handling the heat okay. I've got my jacket on because I'm not afraid. But no, I love it. So glad that you're here with us today. We come to a time in our service where we're going to do an offering. This is a time for those of us that call Central home, just to give back to God a portion of what he's blessed us with. And I'm so grateful for the generosity of the Central family. You know, some things to celebrate this last year. 13,000 people have come to faith through the ministries of Central this last year. 3,000 people have been baptized, which is amazing. This week, 1,500 kids, middle schoolers and high schoolers, are headed off to camp, which is awesome. That's a lot more than we've ever taken. Almost half of those kids have never been to camp before, and camp is like the greatest tool in our tool belt, if you will, to help kids begin to really take next steps spiritually in their lives. So I am thrilled about that, and none of that would be possible without your generosity. In fact, we've been in an initiative this spring into summer called the Generosity Rockstar Initiative. And if you're here today and you're a generosity rock star, would you just raise your hand, your generosity rock stars? I just want to say a huge thank you to you. Thanks for your contribution. Thanks for your faithfulness. A generosity rock star is anybody who gives $20 or more a week in a reoccurring way online. And I'm grateful for all of you that do that and all of you that support the work of the church. You really are helping refresh others. The Bible says if you refresh others, you yourself will be refreshed. It's through generosity that God moves and works in our lives. And often, the very thing that we're hoping for in life comes as a result of surrender in our life. And finances is a huge part of that. One of the ways God blesses us is when we begin to bless others, God begins to bring more, because more reminds us that it's not about us. It's again about blessing others. And so his blessing passes through us onto others. And then we're entrusted with more, and that passes through us onto others. Great example of that is if you're a Raiders fan, the Las Vegas Raiders, Derek Carr, I don't know if you noticed this, the quarterback for the Raiders just became the highest paid NFL quarterback in the entire league. Highest contract ever. It's going to be good for us, people. Derek Carr is a committed Christian, and they interviewed him, just saw it today. And they said, what are you going to do with all this money? You just became the biggest contract in NFL history. You know, the very first thing he said, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tithe. Just like I've done since I was in college making $700. And he said, the reason I'm excited for this money is not so much about what it's going to do for us, it's about what it's going to do for others, not only in this country, but in the work that we do around the world. That's a heart of generosity. So I want to challenge you, if you love this place, to lean in and become a generosity rock star yourself. In the back of the seat back in front of you are some cards. Looks just like this. It says Generosity Rockstar on it. You just grab this card, and it says on the back, yes, I want to become a generosity rockstar. All you need to do right now is grab this card, check yes, put your name and phone number, and if there's a good time to call, we'll call you and follow up, and we'll walk you through the process of how you can set up an online giving account, become a generosity rockstar. This is not only important for your own spiritual growth, it's very important right now in this season for your church. This is a season in the summer where nonprofits and churches always struggle, and we're no different. We'll have a huge shortfall over the next several months. We always do as we go through the summer. So if you can, and if you're able, and if you've been thinking about, some of you, I've talked to you, you've said, man, I just need to do that. I want to do that. I'm just telling you, now is the time, if you love your church, to step in and get involved. Even at just $20 a week, that can make a huge difference in somebody's life. Whatever God would lead you to do, I want to challenge you to do it. So grab one of these cards, check yes. When the offering tray is passed in just a moment, you can drop it in the offering tray. We'll collect it. We'll follow up with you this week, make it as easy as possible for you, and you can feel good because you know your contribution is helping rescue other people. We also have a coin we want to give you. It's the Generosity Rockstar coin. I actually carry one in my pocket every single day. People walk up to me and they're like, you say you carry this in your pocket. Let me see it. Ask me. You see me at the grocery store? Ask me. I'll pull it out. They're always surprised. You really do carry that in your pocket? I'm like, every single day. Two things go in my pocket. One, my 28-year Celebrate Recovery chip. Just saying. And the other, my Generosity Rockstar coin. And yeah, it gets in the way, bangs around, it's a nuisance. gets in the way of my keys, but that's kind of my point. It reminds me of all God has done in my life. It reminds me that I, through generosity, through serving, through helping other people, am making a difference in their life. It reminds me that my life is not primarily about me, even though I'm tempted to make it about me at every turn. It reminds me that it's all about God. So when you sign up to become a generosity rock star, we'll give you one of those coins as a way to remember, hey, your life is about more than you. It's about God. So fill this out, drop it in the offering tray. We do come to a time where our regular giving, and so in a moment, our ushers are gonna pass the offering trays, and I thank you for your faithful generosity to this ministry that we all love so much. Let's bow and pray together. God, we're grateful for your love. We're grateful for the mercy you show us every day in our lives. We just acknowledge that we can't do it on our own, in our own strength and in our own power. And so we give thanks and praise to you. We thank you for your mercy and your kindness, which we are unworthy of, but which we receive with gratitude and joy in our life. Thank you for all that you do and all that you've blessed us with. In Christ's name, amen. Let's continue to worship together.
Trusting you have better plans I haven't even dreamt of yet. I know that you are for me when everything's against me. I put all my hope in you. Jesus, I will trust you. I will trust you. I know you never fail. I will trust you, Jesus, I will. Oh,
There's no limit, no condition. There's no boundary for this love. Nothing greater, nothing stronger, nothing like the love of God. There's no limit, no condition. There's no boundary for this love. Nothing greater, nothing stronger, nothing like the love of God. Sing this out. There's no limit, no condition. There's no boundary for this love. Nothing greater, nothing stronger, nothing like the love of God. There's no limit, no condition. There's no boundary for this love. Nothing greater, nothing stronger, nothing like the love of God. The love of God, There's no limit, no condition. There's no boundary for this love. Nothing greater, nothing stronger, nothing like the love of Church, sing this out together. Oh, love of God, so vast and wide, my rightful place, His Son would die, my debt is paid, His glory stands, what sets me free, only love can. What sets me free, only love can. What sets me free, only love can. Yeah, amen. Church, you may be seated.
Hey Central, it's me, Tim, the Staycation expert. Well, this week we're gonna learn how to execute a perfect pool dive. Hey, have you ever met Michael Phelps in person? Well, neither have I, but I've seen tons of Olympics, so I'm pretty sure we're good to go. Step 1, don't forget to stretch. And like a lot of people, you gotta focus on the really important areas, like your radial tibular tendon right here. Step 2, dive selection. You've got all the basics, the triple back double twist, the double inward pike, the McFlurry, and my favorite, the hybrid cannonball belly flop. Textbook, and you probably noticed there was barely any splash.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Big shout out to each of our locations. Thank you guys for being here with us. Want to welcome our Central Newcastle family this week, as well as Sunrise Mountain, Southern Highlands, Summerlin, Kingman, God Behind Bars locations, and different prison facilities, and those watching online. Grateful to have each and every one of you with us. Let's give it up for those guys joining us today. Well, we are continuing this teaching series called Staycation, looking at how we can all get sort of refreshed by the Big Ten in the Old Testament of the Bible, the 10 Commandments, God's 10 sort of moral principles that give us a framework for how to navigate life. And today we're at the 4th commandment, which is all about rest. You're going to be very glad you came. It's all about rest. Now, how many of you feel like you could use some sleep? How many of you use a little more rest? Isn't it interesting when you're little kids, like the way you're punished is by rest? I remember my parents would tell me, you know, if you keep acting up, you're going to get sent to your room and you're going to have to lie in your bed. And it was punishment, right? I remember I used to go to this little daycare facility, and both my parents worked, and at this daycare facility, there was nap time in the afternoon. And so we'd get a little cookie and a little Kool-Aid, who knows what they put in the Kool-Aid, and then you were supposed to lay down and everybody was supposed to take a nap. And all I remember from my childhood is how much I hated nap time. I'm just laying there the whole time staring up at the ceiling thinking, when is it over, when is it over, when is it over? So I can get out and have some fun. Punishment was resting. Time out was laying down in bed. And then you get to be an adult. And now you want nothing more than for somebody to come along and put you in time out, right? Nap time would be glorious. It's like, oh, I would love to have to take a nap. That'd be awesome. When you become parents, man, when you have little kids, sleep is out the window. Some of you are there right now trying to navigate that season. I remember as our little kids began to grow up, they would come into our room in the middle of the night and climb in our bed. And we would try to break this habit. And we eventually were able to do this with our daughter. But with our son, he was more stubborn. He was more willful. You know, he just kept coming in. Didn't matter what we did. We read the books. We tried the techniques just to get him to stay in his bed. Because when he came into our bed and climbed in bed, he would like play a soccer match in his dreams every night. He's running. He's kicking. He's throwing his fists all around. Can anybody relate to what I'm saying? I'm getting hit in the face. I need protection, if you know what I'm saying. I mean, it's not good. I'm up all night long because my little guy is just going and going and going. I remember one day he sat up in the morning, and this is literally what he said. He goes, "I slept great. Isn't that amazing?" I remember I'm sitting there, and I've been beaten up all night long, and I'm like, I didn't sleep at all, and that's not very amazing. And so one day, Lori and I finally said, look, we've had enough. We've tried everything we know to do. We've read all the books. We've talked to him. We've tried to get him to stay in his room. We tried to lock the door, but then you feel like you're abusive parents. And so finally, we said, we're going to buy a smaller bed. I woke up on a Saturday morning after not sleeping all night, and that's exactly what we did. We went down to the store. We downsized. You're supposed to upsize as you get older. We downsized. We got a smaller bed, set it all up in our master bedroom, and then brought Ethan in, stood him beside the bed, and said, "Little Ethan, look, buddy, I don't know what happened. The big bed's gone. All we have now is the little bed. You don't fit anymore in the little bed. There's no space for you." And he kind of listened to that, and then he still came in about 2 a.m. Here he comes, his little feet. He starts climbing up in that bed, and he realized there's nowhere to lay in this bed. I'm laying on Dad's arm. This isn't good. He can't go to sleep. So eventually he leaves, and we're thinking this is victory, except he goes to his sister's room now and climbs in her bed. She can't sleep either. She starts complaining about it. So would you believe we actually broke down and finally bought her a bigger bed? So we got a smaller bed, she got a bigger bed, and we're like, you guys fight it out, have fun. We're just trying to get some sleep. I remember once, 2 a.m, I'll never forget, Emma starts screaming in the middle of the night, "Help, help, help." And every parent, when you hear help, goes into parent rescue mode. And I jumped up, I run down the hall. I'm like, my heart's beating 1,000,000 miles an hour. I throw her door open in her room. I turn the light on, and there she is. I don't know, maybe 8 years old. "Help." And she's sitting there with her finger like this. And she looks at me, and this is what she says: "Booger, booger, there's a booger on my finger." I remember just standing there like, you woke me up at 2 a.m. because there's a booger on your finger, So I grabbed the thing off her finger. I'm like, go back to bed. I remember walking out thinking, if that was a boy, he'd just eat it. But it's a girl, and I'm up at 2:30 in the morning. But as a parent, it's hard to sleep. It's hard to rest. Studies show that back in 1850, the average person in civilized cultures got about 10 hours of sleep a night. 10 hours of sleep. Can you even imagine? Studies show today that the average person in civilized cultures gets about 6 to 6.5 hours of sleep a night, and it's getting progressively less. And yet sleep is exactly what we need. Rest is what we need. You're 2 to 3 times more likely to get sick when you're exhausted and worn out, when you're not getting enough sleep. And so I want to talk to you about rest, but not just rest like getting more sleep. I want to talk to you about soul rest, about soul siesta. Now a siesta, that's from a certain culture where you take a nap in the afternoon. Some of us may feel like we need a nap, but what we really need is something more. We need for God to fill our soul from the bottom all the way up and to help transform our hearts and our lives. That's what the fourth commandment is really all about. So if you have your Bibles and want to follow along, we're going to be in Deuteronomy chapter 5, beginning in verse 12. Deuteronomy chapter 5. And we're going to look at this command that God gives to the Israelites. We looked at the first 3 commands over the last several weeks, and we've been talking about how, look, these are principles for our lives, where our salvation, our forgiveness, our hope is ultimately in Jesus and what he has done, not in how good we are or how well we keep the rules. But these rules and principles can empower us to live a life with sort of maximum satisfaction and minimum regret. Minimum regret. And so you get to Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 12. When we get to the red word, I'm going to ask you to read it out loud with me and help me out here. Here's what it says. Observe the Sabbath day by keeping it what? Holy, as the Lord your God has commanded you. Now, Sabbath in the Hebrew language is just a term that meant Saturday. And so they were to take Saturday as the day that they were to keep holy, they were to set it aside, and they were to rest, to allow God to fill them up. It's a principle that God himself engages in all throughout the Bible, even from the very beginning. We see that after creation on the 7th day, what does God do? God rests. He doesn't rest because he's tired, because he's worn out. He's God, right? He doesn't get tired and worn out. He rests to set the model for us. And rest in the ancient world was actually, in that context, seen as like you rested when all your work was done. And so God, after creation, his work was done. He sits, he rests, he models it for us. There's a rhythm that God has wired into creation. There's a rhythm. And that rhythm is 6 days you work, but one day, the 7th day, you rest and you allow God to fill you back up. And I would suggest, as a principle, this is probably one of the most violated principles in our culture today, even by believers. I've wrestled with this. We grind it out 7 days a week. We go. We even think it's more holy or we're more committed if we continue to work and push through. And yet, I want to argue that you can get more done in a week if you take a day of rest consistently than you can if you work 7 straight days a week every week. So first principle is this. If you want to basically be your best, you've got to invest in God's rest. So pick a day. Pick a day. A day, any day of the week where you will rest. Now, for the Jewish people, it was Saturday. That was the Sabbath, literally. It was the holy day they set aside. But as you read through the Bible, you see that in the New Testament, it says we've entered into Jesus' rest through salvation, through what he's accomplished for us. It's no longer so much about which day it is. It's more about honoring the principle of picking a day. That's why in the early church, the early believers in Jesus celebrated the Sabbath on Sunday. And they took that as the day of rest. Whatever day it is, pick a day. Pick a day. Now, I'm going to bring an image up that goes back to my childhood. You may or may not relate to this, but there was a commercial that came on a lot when I was growing up with Kool-Aid Man in it. And I don't know if you guys remember Kool-Aid Man, but Kool-Aid Man would show up, and it was a Kool-Aid commercial, and he would always say these words, "Oh yeah." Any of you remember Kool-Aid Man? A few of you? Yeah, okay. Kool-Aid Man, come on. This is what he looked like right here. Actually, I don't have an image. I'm just going to show it on my little thing of Kool-Aid right there. Can you see his face right there? This is cherry Kool-Aid. How many of you like cherry Kool-Aid? You want some cherry Kool-Aid? Yeah, well, this is a prop. You have to see me after. Cherry Kool-Aid. So Think about life. Think about all the things that we do in life. I've got a little display up here, 4 different cups. Each one of these cups represents a different part of our life. Let's say we've got work, and Monday comes along, or whenever the first of your work week begins, and so you jump in and you pour yourself into Monday, and you give yourself at work, and you serve other people, you do what needs to be done, you balance the bills, you sell things, whatever it is, and there's Monday. And then you get home and you've got family, all the family dynamics, and you love your family. You want to serve them. Then you've got laundry and the never-ending dishes, and you got the dog to feed and all those kind of things to do. And then over here you've got health. You want to look good, live long, so you go to the gym, you work out, you do your thing, you exercise, awesome. And then lastly, we've got dreams and hobbies. You got some dreams, some hobbies. It is the smallest cup, but it's there. And so there it is. It takes 7 days. You plow through it all, and there's the week. And then the next week starts, and you're like, all right, bring it on. You go to work, they need some overtime. You need the money, no problem. You get home, there's family drama, but you got it covered. There's a few things going on, but you can do it. And then you get to the gym, and so you hit the gym. You're being faithful. You keep working out. You got a little bit left over for dreams and hobbies. Week 2, that's awesome. There we go. Then week 3 comes along. All right, here we go. We're back at work. We're grinding it out at work, and then we go home, and now we got a little bit left at home, and then we'll skip the gym, and then forget the dream, and now we're back to work. Here we are, we're at work, and then not much of home life going on here, and back to work. Here we are. Now we're just working, and it's like we just got nothing left, right? There's nothing in the tank, and we wonder why we fight so much at home. You wonder why at home, when you get home, and you just bring up one little thing that needs to be fixed around the house, he kind of goes ape nuts and has a meltdown because he's got nothing left in the tank. Fix your own freaking ceiling fan. I can't fix it. I got nothing left, right? You wonder why when you bring one little thing up, she's like, you know what? I can't do anymore. If you could just wash this out. Look, I can't do any more laundry. Our kid's been wearing the same underwear for 3 days. It is what it is. I'm tired. I'm worn out. Now, here's the deal. We all get to these kind of places in our life, and I think we often feel like, I just need to be filled up. I just need to be filled up. Sabbath is not a day for you to fill yourself up. Sabbath is a day where you allow God to fill you up. You can't do it on your own. You allow God to fill you up. Why? Because the next week's coming, and you got to have something that you can give here and here and here and here. And so Sabbath is that day that we set aside and we say, all right, God, fill me up today. Give me the energy and the strength that I need. Give me the perspective. Help me remember what's most important. Work in my heart and in my life. In fact, look at this. Deuteronomy chapter 5, beginning in verse 12, says this. It says, you have 6 days each week for your ordinary work. There it is. 6 days for all the ordinary stuff, okay? But the 7th day is a Sabbath day of rest dedicated to the Lord your God. It's dedicated to God. It's a day you set aside for Him. I want to suggest to you that for some of you, the most powerful thing that you could do, not only for your spiritual life, but for your emotional and physical longevity and health, is today to look out and pick a day that's going to be your Sabbath. Every day this summer, each week as you move along. Every day this season in your life, each week as you move along. Pick a day. Some of you are like, I don't have a day, man. Have you seen my cups? That's not even half my cups. There is no day. But listen, this is one of those areas where I would say you can't afford not to. It's like generosity. People say, look, I can't be generous. I can't give back to God. I don't have enough to go around as it is. You don't get more until you get generous and begin to share the little you have, and then God gives more to you in your life. You find that 90% with you and God is more than 100% on your own. You find that 6 days of work and a day of rest with you and God is more than 7 days of work on your own. And so it doesn't always make sense. And some of us look at our lives and we're like, man, I can't do that. But you can. And if you do, I believe you'll eventually find that you not only accomplish more, but you accomplish it longer than you ever would have before. There's a pace, there's a rhythm God has set up. I remember when I was working for my dad one summer in college, and I was on this construction site, and the construction manager grabbed me and another old gentleman, and he said, each of you guys grab a shovel. He goes, took me over to this space. He says, I need you to dig a hole here, and I need you to dig a hole here. He says, this is gonna be a rectangular hole. It was deep. It was more than 6 feet deep, and it was early in the morning. He says, it's gonna take you all day. He says, we can't get equipment back here. You gotta dig this hole, and you gotta dig this hole. And so he kind of marked off the hole where it was, and I have my shovel, and I looked over at this old man. I thought, he can't dig this hole. He's gonna die. But I thought, I'll show him how it's done. So I got my shovel and I started going, right? And I got my little scoop, and then I went over and dumped it, and I got mine. I was like 3 scoops into his one. I'm like, look at this old man, because he was like whistling. I remember whistling. I can't really whistle. You have to fill it in for me. And then he'd go over and he'd push that shovel down, and he got into a rhythm, and then he'd kind of walk over, he'd dump that dirt, right? He'd go back over, put that shovel down, He's just kind of moving along. I'm like, man, I'm gonna school you. So here I go, I'm shoveling, man. I'm gonna have this hole done by lunch. I'll tell you what happened. By lunch, I had nothing left. I was gassed. I was exhausted. And I remember sitting there totally exhausted, and I was slightly ahead of him, but the old man was barely sweating. And he goes back over to the hole, and he looks over at me like, rookie. He's got that rhythm, right? 2 o'clock in the afternoon comes around. I'm like walking around seeing who I can bribe to help me finish the hole. That old man, he's still going. He's got that rhythm. He's got no sweat. He's just rocking along, and this keeps happening. And by 5 o'clock in the afternoon, my hole isn't finished. His hole is perfect. And he sets that shovel down and looks at me, winks at me, and walks off. And I never forget what I learned that day. There is a wisdom to a rhythm, to a pace. That old man knew you can go at this thing 100 miles an hour, son, but you got to go all day long. You got to pace yourself. Some of you, if you don't get into a rhythm, you're going to wreck your life, your soul, your family, the things that matter most. God has set up a rhythm, so pick a day. Pick a half a day. Some seasons you may not have a day, but do the best you can to lock in a day. Put it on your calendar. Say, this is the day where I rest. Yeah, there's a lot of demands. Yeah, there's a lot of things going on, but this is the day. This is the half a day where I set it aside. And then the second principle is this: learn what fills you. Learn what fills you and engage in that. Check this out. Deuteronomy chapter 5, beginning in verse 13. Gives us some more detail about this day. It says, on that day, no one in your household may do any work. Come on, moms. This includes you, your sons and daughters, your male and female servants, your oxen and donkeys and other livestock, and any foreigners living among you. All your male and female servants must rest as you do. So here's the idea. This is like a day off for everybody. Like if dad chores don't fill you up, you don't have to do dad chores. If laundry is a nightmare, you don't do laundry on your day of rest, right? You got to give yourself to things that fill you up. God even says, look, even the oxen get time off. Even the animals got time off. Why? Because that was the means of production. And so if they could work those animals, they would work them, right? They would find a way. So God says, even the animals get time off. Let me suggest that today that may look something like this. Even the computer gets time off. Even your mobile device gets time off. Ooh. Even social media gets time off. Even the text message gets time off. Even there's a time for some of us where our mode of production is our phone. That's what we live on. That's what we always are engaging with. And I understand when you're on, you have to be on. And like me, some of you are in jobs where it's not really 9 to 5. Anything can happen at any time of the day, and I pick up, right? God called me this week. I answered the phone. He's like, you answered the phone. I'm like, that's what I do. Some of you are there. You get it. That's what you do, right? You don't know what's coming on the other end, but you grab it because that's what you do. But we gotta have seasons in our life. We need a day where you just turn that phone off. Text people around you and say, don't call me today. If it's 911, call my wife. She'll get to me. But I gotta turn this off, right? Because I'm not in this for the sprint. I'm in it for the marathon. That's something different. I'm not in this for the short term, right? I'm trying to stay in life, my family, work, health for the long term. And to do that, I gotta have perspective and rhythm and balance. What fills you? What fills you? It's gonna be different for all of us. For some of you, that'll be being around other people. That fills you up, that excites you. For those of you that are introverts, just being at church is already draining you. Just being around all these people, smelling them, knowing they're there, it's already, affecting you, right? That's who you are. So maybe you need a day alone if that's you. You need to get away if that's you. For some of you, you get out in nature and it's like, oh man, I just feel like God is here. God is present. For others of you, you get out in nature and you just, feel like you need some kind of mosquito repellent and that's about it. Like, there's nothing there because we're all wired up differently. For some of you, it's music. I love to play guitar. Like on my day off, which for me are like Friday mornings and Saturday mornings. Those are my two little windows that I try to carve out. And I do two things in those windows. I play music because it's like my thing that I love to do. I'm no good at it, but it doesn't matter. I enjoy it. And it helps me disconnect. And I read. I like to read books about God and faith that challenge me and stimulate me. It fills me up. What fills you up? Not just in general, but also spiritually. What's gonna help you feel more connected to God and feel stronger? That's what the Sabbath is all about. So pick a day, find what fills you, and then thirdly, just recover your life. Recover your life. I saw these Twitter posts that were pretty funny. It was a hashtag that somebody had started that was all about dates that had gone bad, how to escape a bad date. Here's the first one. Person says, I just hold up a picture of my mom and say, meet the competition. That's how to escape a bad date. All right, here's another one. This person just says, no matter what he's talking about in the conversation, just bring it back around to your cat. Him, I love travel. Me, my cat's an explorer. How to escape a bad day. All right, here's one more. Randomly tell her to cut down on the carbs. Yeah, you're gonna die. You're not just gonna get out of the date, you may get out of life if that's what you do. How to escape a bad day. Well, the Sabbath to the Israelites was in part challenging them to remember that they had gone through a bad season and that now they were in a different season. Listen to this, Deuteronomy chapter 5, beginning in verse 15. He says, remember that you were once slaves in Egypt. But the Lord your God brought you out with his strong hand and powerful arm. That is why the Lord your God has commanded you to rest on the Sabbath day. Now here's why this is so important. Slaves didn't get a day off. Slaves didn't get to rest. And this was 1 million+ people coming out of slavery. And here's what God's saying. Look, he's basically forbidding slavery. He's saying everybody takes a day off. It was a whole new way of framing up life and reality for these individuals who had came through so much. Because he knows our temptation sometimes is to go backwards to our old way of life, to go backwards to our old habits. And so listen to what Jesus says, Matthew 11:28. He just sort of bottom lines it this way. Matthew 11:28, he says, are you tired? You worn out? He says, are you burned out on religion? Come to me, get away with me, and you'll what? Recover your life. You wanna recover your life? Jesus says, come to me. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Isn't that beautiful? Jesus is like, I'll show you how to rest. Look at this. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I love that. We all need to walk in the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. Jesus is saying, come along with me on a spiritual journey. Hang out with me. I'll show you how to live freely and lightly. You have to live in worry. You don't have to live in fear. You don't have to walk around always trying to fill the needs of other people. Sometimes we're always sort of pouring out because we're afraid, and we think we're afraid of failure, but deep down we're actually afraid of rejection. And Jesus is saying, look, I'll forgive you and heal you, and I will move in your life where that fear of rejection begins to be removed because you are accepted by a God who loves you and cares for you. And so you don't have to do it on your own. I mean, every night when we go to bed and we close our eyes, something happens that should probably, it's so basic, but it should probably be more significant to us than it often is. Every night when we close our eyes, we should remember that we're not God. We're about to go offline for 6+ hours, right? I mean, we have no idea what's going on, but you know what? The universe still moves. God still works. You can take your cares and your worries to God because he's gonna be up all night anyway, and then you can go to sleep. And the same thing happens in the rhythm of a week. You can take a day and you can give it to God, and you say, I don't know, but what if I don't have enough money? God will provide for his people. But what if I don't have enough stuff? God will take care of the stuff. But what if I can't get it all done? God will help you get done what you can never get done in your own strength and in your own power. So you set aside that day and you say, God, I'm making it holy to you. I'm gonna dedicate it to you. Maybe I'm gonna read your word. Maybe I'm gonna listen to worship. Maybe I'm gonna engage spiritually in conversation. Definitely I'm gonna get to church. Many of you, you're here right now at church because this is your day. You've set aside to worship. But after church is over, your worship doesn't have to end. You can still engage in things that fill you spiritually and help you feel close to God. And that's gonna serve you in your work. It's gonna help you go further in your career. It's gonna impact your marriage. You're gonna fight less and love more. It's gonna help you deal with bitterness and unforgiveness. That's gonna help you in your health. It might actually motivate you to make some changes from a health standpoint, and that will help you continue to pursue the dreams and the passions that God has put in your heart and in your life. It's the most violated commandment probably of all of them, but one of the most important principles. Remember the Sabbath, the day of rest, and keep it holy in your life. Let's bow and pray together. God, we thank you for your love. We're grateful for who you are, and we thank you for all that you give us in our lives. God, I thank you for the privilege that we have to take a day of rest, for the permission that you give us to set aside a day to recuperate and remember who you are and to rejuvenate our own heart and life. And I pray that in this season, in each of our lives, you'll motivate us and inspire us to take the steps we need to pick a day in our lives, to set aside that time, to find what fills us and to give ourselves to that, to recover our lives as we follow you in faith. Teach us those rhythms of grace so that we can walk in them each day in our lives. We give you praise in Christ's name. Amen. All right, Central family. Well, listen, I'm gonna throw it now at each of our locations to our location pastors. So let's put our hands together for them as they come out and talk us through some next steps.
As Pastor Judd challenged us today to become a generosity rock star, I want to encourage you to do that right now. You can go to centralonline.tv/give to set up your reoccurring gift of $20 or more each week. Thank you so much for being a part this weekend. I hope that you have a great week. Next weekend, we're continuing in our series, Staycation. If you're here in Las Vegas or Arizona, Florida, Mexico, Australia, I want to encourage you to show up and join us in person. But between now and then, remember Romans chapter 8 says, if God is for us, who can be against us?